you wake up one morning and receive a random text, "Hey stranger," this kind of text that triggers you, is it real interest or just some breadcrumb of an avoidant partner? We're going to break this down with clarity and care. If you felt confused or second-guessed yourself, you're not crazy and you're definitely not alone. Let's take one breath. You're in the right place. I've coached thousands through avoidant confusion, and today I help you decode the message behind the message. Not just what they said, but what they actually meant. Because when you stop chasing clarity from them, you start reclaiming it in yourself. You choose you. If someone you care about is stuck in the same loop, forward this video. That could be a wake-up call as well for them. Let's start with the definition of breadcrumbs. Breadcrumbs is when you receive or when someone sends small messages just to keep you emotionally engaged. Okay, so remember this idea of almost like being on the hook. It's characterized by no follow-through, no plans, no intimacy. The idea is to avoid emotional closeness. The problem is, and the impact it has on people, is that you can feel hopeful and also confused and anxious. Hopeful because yes, you want this person back. Yes, you want to repair the relationship. But confused and anxious because, well, it's only breadcrumbs, right? You have to decode things, you have to make sense of things, and that's why I'm making this video, is to help you gain clarity on this. The problem also that I see with my clients is there's usually high and lows, the patterns of push-pull dynamic, especially with avoidant partners. So avoidant are very, very known for breadcrumbing their partners after a breakup. That doesn't mean that you should never take them back. That doesn't mean that you will get them back for sure. And that's why I want to explain in this video, is helping you to understand and make sense of the situation that you're going through. So signs of real interest: consistent communication, follow through on plans and initiate more than you initiating, talks about the future and includes you in it, make space for emotional vulnerability, doesn't disappear when things get deeper, seeks resolution during conflict, they don't escape. In other words, you feel seen, you feel safe, you feel prioritized. So right now, I want you to potentially pause at this stage and reflect on how you feel after the conversation or the different messages that you received lately. Do you feel it's consistent? Do you feel you're not the only one initiating? If you have any doubt, if you're confused, that's a sign that's probably breadcrumbing. When I work with my clients on WhatsApp, and Telegram now, sorry, I say WhatsApp, but now we're using Telegram. This is what I help them with, is making sure to make sense of what they're saying, but also having another pair of eyes, obviously completely unbiased, who doesn't have feelings for the person, to show that person, okay, we are going in the right direction. This is good enough, or we should pull back. It's not working for us. And it's very hard to do this work on your own. Now, let's explain why sometimes avoidance would breadcrumb you. There's this idea of we want connection. So I used to be dismissive avoidant. And even though commitment was difficult for me, I always wanted to be in a relationship. So it's a bit strange because we want to be in a relationship, but at the same time, we are scared of engulfment. We are scared of losing ourselves in the relationship. The thing is, what happens after a breakup or when you're trying to work things out with an avoidant, they want to keep you close. They want to be reassured about the relationship, but they don't want the intimacy. Okay? So that's the thing where you have to really be careful about what's their intention. Whether they're testing things because they're scared of rejection, or it's just a question of they're not interested. So the thing is, like, it's very difficult and I know it's very painful. The problem is, with most avoidant people, they don't understand their emotional patterns. Because dismissive avoidant, we dismiss emotions. We put them on the side. Fearful avoidant is slightly different because you're going to have highs and lows. They're going to feel those emotions, but they're going to withdraw equally. same, usually people don't know about them and they're unconscious. The question is like, and that's why sometimes people feel like, oh, they're narcissistic, etc. It's not something that they necessarily do on purpose. It's something, they feel scared by the intimacy, by the commitment. The thing when you're in a push-pull dynamic that you hate because it's very painful, because it makes you anxious, for them, it feels a little bit safer. So if I take my example when I was in my 20s, I would always message or send something when, and it's going to be awful, I'm going to say, when I had nothing else to do, right? When I felt lonely, when I craved connection. The problem is, it was on my, right? It's my agenda, it's my need, right? And I didn't necessarily understood at that time that actually, if you want to build a sustainable relationship, actually, I knew it. It's just like I didn't want to make the effort. You need to be more consistent. You need to lead the way, right? And you shouldn't always be the one. It shouldn't always be on your own terms, right? Of I need the connection, therefore I'm going to send something. Not too emotional, just to see if you're around, just to see if you're interested, just to something that would fill my ego. Now, what I want you to, again, maybe post this slide as well. Ask yourself those questions. Do I feel secure? Or do I feel I constantly second guess myself? Am I romanticizing the potential? This is a classic one for people who have an anxious attachment style. They would idealize the relationship. And they would idealize the person thinking, I know we could be happy. I know we had something special. The only thing that didn't work, the only thing that, the fear of commitment, the communication element, but other than that, that was perfect. Therefore, they would project themselves into that place. And if you're like this is very, very, very common. But they don't understand that like the potential is only real when the person is doing something about it, right? So that's very important. There is this idea of, are you emotionally fulfilled by this? And sometimes people are addicted to drama. I made a video as part of a series of Avoidant, Anxious, Bridging the Gap, where I talk about why anxious people are attracted to avoidant. And this idea of unconsciously you're attracted to people who are unavailable because they remind you of something that feels familiar, something that you developed when you were a child or in your first relationships. And that reinforcing this idea of like, for example, if you're anxious, I need someone in my life. I need to be reassured. I need you to tell me that we are together. Do you feel like you are scared that they would walk away? Do you tolerate someone like this? Would you tolerate this from someone like this? So it's a very visual example, visual technique that I use very often with my clients. What would best friend, or what would your best secure friend would do in that situation? So imagine you're in your friend's living room. They're receiving that text. What would be their thought process? What would they do? What would they say? And it's interesting because when you do this mental exercise, very often you find a different response than yours. That's an insight. That's telling you something you need to work on. Because if you want to be more secure, if you want to have healthy and fulfilling relationships, it's important to challenge why you allow yourself to be treated in a certain way. So it's very important, again, have a look at those questions. Ask yourself those questions. If you're not clear about the answers, that's also your answer. The way you could have a scorecard of the conversation that you have with your partner is the consistency of the contact, initiating, the depth of the content, if it's superficial or they're asking things, the follow through on the plans, the emotional availability, how they react to vulnerability when you talk about your feelings, when you could talk about emotions, the excuse, the future, are they projecting themselves? Are they including you in their future? And the idea of mirroring or ghosting. Again, have a look when you analyze those breadcrumbs. This "Hey stranger" text on its own doesn't mean anything. You have to look at the conversation and the different messages throughout the different sort of weeks, not months, because you don't want, my view is that you don't want to be in that limbo for more than a month or two because you feel that they're scared. No, I mean, I used to be dismissive avoidant. That's not an excuse to be treated badly. Okay, so if you feel like you're trying, you're making effort, you're watching this video, you're learning about attachment style, maybe you have a therapist, etc. You're working on yourself, you're doing the work, and you still accept that over a period of, I don't know, 4 to 8 weeks, it's very personal what feels acceptable. But for me, it's not because you're going to wait for 3 months or 6 months that things will fundamentally change. You need to be realistic about the changes, about the work that they're doing, about the effort they're putting in. If you don't see anything in the first couple of months, you are wasting your time. And remember, in those situations, choose you. I'll see you next time. Take care.